Well, I am here today extremely excited to welcome our guest, Laverne Cox. Laverne, it's so great. Have our paths crossed? I feel like we must have met someplace. I know we haven't worked in anything together, but
I think I would remember meeting the legendary Kevin Bacon.
I think I would
No,
remember meeting the legendary Laverne Cox.
we've never met. It's so funny. I was in LA over the weekend, and Footloose was on TV, and then Flashdance came on, and I'm 51 years old, so like my entire elementary school life flashed before my eyes, and it was such a moment. I know you've done many things since Footloose, but that is how I discovered you, and it was just a lovely, nostalgic moment that I had just had just a few days ago.
Oh, that's awesome. So speaking about going back, I know you probably hear this a lot, but tell me about your journey into this, specifically into this profession, and what it was that brought you to our screens.
Oh my. It's been a long journey, but I started out so when I was a kid, I grew up in Mobile, Alabama, and when I started walking, I started dancing. And I always had and so I was a dancer as a kid, so Footloose and Flashdance were touchstones, as was Fame, for me. And so from about the age of 5 years old till third grade, I begged my mother to put me into dance classes. And finally, when I was in third grade, I started studying tap and jazz. Mobile, Alabama was not the best place for me to grow up. I was bullied as a kid. I was, beaten up and chased home from school every day because I was this very femme child and I was assigned male at birth. And so when I would dance, I would create these characters and have music in my head, and I would go someplace else. And it really saved my life as a kid. It was this amazing, wonderful thing. I used to start doing talent shows in third grade, and I remember I choreographed a dance routine to Manhunt from Flashdance. And in third
I
grade,
love
and
it. Is there videotape of that?
I wish
Oh,
we were poor, so we didn't record this. But can you
oh.
imagine this little black kid doing a jazz dance routine to Manhunt from Flashdance? And I don't think I didn't understand what I'm going on a manhunt meant. So I've always been a performer, and I always knew that I would transition to acting. Even when I was a dancer, I felt like it was all sort of about characters. It was all about sort of creating personas, and so I always knew that I would transition to acting. And I went to the Alabama School of Fine Arts and was a dance major there, and then I did started doing some musicals in high school and college, and started studying acting in college. I went to Indiana University, then transferred to Marymount Manhattan College, and I have a degree in dance. But I started doing
Okay.
theater when I was in college. I did my first movie when I was in college, and after I graduated and realized I needed to stop being in denial about being trans, I was like, well, there's no trans actors, and this was the mid to late 90s, and I was like, what am I going to do? So I went to fashion school for like a year.
Oh yeah. Okay. So you looked at the scope at the landscape of the industry, the acting industry, and said, "There's no trans actors. There's no career path here." But I'm going to go into fashion.
Yeah,
Wow,
I knew.
that
Well,
is really fascinating.
I knew trans people who were in fashion. I knew trans people who were buyers and who worked in
Hmm.
merchandising. And so I was thinking I was studying merchandising at FIT, and I did it for 2 semesters for like a year. And I
Hmm.
was like, I love fashion, but I don't want to do this. So I did a movie in college, my senior year, and someone saw me on the subway and thought I'd be perfect for this movie, and did a movie then. And then I someone saw me in a club. I auditioned for a film. I did another film. Little roles were coming around here and there for drag or trans, and they didn't know the difference between drag and trans at the time. And so I was getting these little roles, and then I just was sort of and then there was a woman named Candace Edmondson, who I worked with at coffee shop in Union Square, and she was like, "Oh, you're acting. You should come to this acting class." And a woman named Susan Batson was still teaching now. She was studying with Susan. I went to Susan's class, and it changed my life. And I was like, now it's the time to get serious about acting. And when I started studying with Susan, I fell in love with acting, and I really began to understand the power of the art form to change hearts and minds. There was a directive. Susan always would ask us, implore us when we had a character, what do you want to say to the world about this character, about the humanity of this character? Tom Brangle, who was one of the teachers, he always gave this example of when he did a play and he had to play a rapist, and he was just like, what do I want to say to the world about this horrible character that I'm, person who's done a horrible thing. And for him, it was like, if you don't, for parents, if you don't, love your children, your child could turn into this horrible person. So there was always something attached to the work that was bigger than the work, but then there was also a call to delve as deep into your psyche as possible. Her whole thing is to create a walking, talking human being, and to always find the bottom of the character. And when you really commit, she helped me understand, and I think all her students understand, when you fully commit to the process of delving deep into your psyche to give those things over to character, so many details, so many layers. And when you layer that, when you create a full human being, that can shift molecules, that could change the world. And then in 2007, a woman named Candace Kane became the first trans actor to have a recurring role in a primetime TV show that shows Dirty Sexy Money. That made me believe it was possible, and I had been studying seriously since 2001. And so then I, printed 500 postcards that said, Laverne Cox is the answer to all your transgender acting needs. Before then, I was auditioning for things and not of like necessarily disclosing my transness. And then I got 4 meetings, and one of them was with my current manager, Paul Haleppo, and we've been together since 2007, which is amazing. And
yeah, that's crazy. You've been with somebody that long.
Yeah, it's been a hard road. I mean, I was listening to your podcast and your conversation with Mark Ruffalo, and you were sort of talking about going on auditions, and a lot of my colleagues who are not trans have had so many more auditions than I have. There just haven't been that many roles. And so I've just been really, I mean, when the Orange Is the New Black moment came along in 2012, I was going to quit acting. I had just turned 40. And I thought, who do you think you are, thinking that you can be an actor, and you're 40 now, and you're black, and you're trans, and no one's, had a mainstream career. And so I was going to go, I was about to apply to grad school. I was studying for my GRE, and I was about to apply to grad school. And the Orange audition came along, and I booked it, and it changed my life.
Wow. And of course, you were so fantastic on that show, along with everything since then. And now you must just turn down work left and right.
This business, people will put you in a box and think that there's only one thing that you can do. Yes, they do. And I am looking forward to people seeing the range of what I can do. And I'm very committed to being a better actor and playing different kinds of roles, and I can't wait for the world to see the new things that we've done that are very different than what we've done before. So I'm excited about that, and hopefully it'll click with people, and directors and casting people will see it and say, "Oh, she can do this too," and "Oh, she can do that." So
well, that's always the challenge,
hopeful.
right? Is that I mean, I've always felt that starting out, I was kind of even told by people, this is the type of thing that you're going to do, and it's going to be whatever it was. In my case, Boy Next Door, or whatever, and fighting against that and taking those risks and trying to because Hollywood really does want you to do the thing. It's not even so much the last thing they saw you in, but it's the thing that you've been the most successful at. They want you because they figure that if they could make money, from the thing that you did well, then they want you to do it again so they can make the money from the thing that you did well.
Yeah, absolutely. Being a black trans woman, and with the environment that is so anti-trans now, being commercially viable is like a tricky thing. And it's something I think a lot about. And I think a lot about reaching bigger audiences and more diverse audiences, which is going to be really important for my career the business part of my career going forward. So it's something I think a lot about. And hopefully, my hope is that what I've always believed, what Susan instilled in me and all her students, is that if the work is truly human and you really do the work, it will transcend all categories. It will transcend that. It doesn't matter what you look like. She always would talk about Whoopi Goldberg and that she didn't look like anyone else, and the power of the work that she did in Color Purple specifically. And then, and as a comedian, she was just so good and so... People connected to her and related to her, and she made us laugh and she made us feel that it didn't matter that she didn't look like anybody else. And so this is my charge as an artist, that I'm not like anybody else, and I think that's wonderful. But I must be exceptional, and so I'm probably my biggest critic in terms of my work. And I try, what I do love about acting though, is my prayer before this podcast today, and my prayer before I work, is always, God, give me permission to do this imperfectly and allow me to be of service. And so as critical as I am of everything that I do.
Writing that down right now, imperfectly and of service. Thank you.
I have to let go of the perfectionism now. I have to consciously say this isn't going to be perfect, and that's okay.
I love it when people do multiple things in their lives, which you've done, time and time again. You as you mentioned, have done your red carpet stuff and opera, your amazing acting career. You're also a very strong advocate for different kinds of human rights. It's been absolutely thrilling to hear your obviously personal and heartfelt opinions and the work that you're doing on this very, very, very important issue.